On Sunday, 2nd of April, in the evening, something great happened in this country. From the State House, Nairobi, President William Samoei Ruto did what we had wanted him to do, which is to refer to Raila Odinga as my brother, as my friend, and to invite his brother and friend into what he called a bipartisan approach to ending the problems that were facing the country. A few hours later, Raila Odinga, with his team, addressed the nation and accepted the olive leaf from the president. And with that, we saved our country from anarchy. For me, it was a great relief. My prayers had been answered. And to many like me who had wanted this to happen, we went to bed on that Sunday and slept well. On my part, I slept for 12 hours like a baby. I had been observing the demonstrations and mass action in Nairobi. And I was quite sure that we were headed to losing our country. And so when this happened, I was more than happy. Countries have gone down, like I've said, for much less. It is therefore hurting me. It is surprising. It is disappointing to see the parties who had brought such a hope to the country going out of their way to spoil the truth. Almost to dismantle the hope they had helped build. The Ruto side feels perhaps Raila wants a little more than they could have agreed on. That's understandable in negotiations. You ask for the sun, but aim for the moon, or a few hanging clouds in between. On the part of the president, it's so disheartening listening to the president 2 days ago speaking from Nyandarua. I just went down. And from what you can see, I have not recovered. The president has moved from my brother, my friend, to yule jamaa wa kitendawili. Yule jamaa nilimnyorosha asubuhi. Wasipojipanga 2027, hata agent watakuwa naye. And from the typical Rigathi Gachagua, they can go on with their demonstrations. We don't care. It really pains me, as one of those who really pushed for the moment that happened on Sunday. I must therefore come out strongly and plead with the president and those around the president to remain on the path of peace, on the path of brotherhood and sisterhood, to do everything in their hands, President and your people, to ensure we remain a nation and that we do not lose this country. It pains me to see how close we keep getting to disaster. And I keep asking myself, why would the president talk the way he's talking? Does he know something the rest of us don't know? After all, he consumes intelligence from the intel community. The police are under his command, and many other agencies. Where is the confidence to speak the way the president is speaking coming from? Could it be that he had managed to trick Raila into withdrawing, and therefore he knows it will be very difficult for Raila's troops to go back to battle? Or could it be he has again once more been overwhelmed by the hardliners? Or could it dangerously mean that the president and his people are underestimating the situation on the ground? Couldn't it be that dangerous that the government is headed by people who do not know that we were about to lose our country? I want to advise the president that under normal circumstances, when you win an election, you embark on uniting the country, on doing those things that will make Kenyans feel like they are Kenyans. But we are not under normal circumstances. And therefore, it is even more demanding that the president goes out of his way to unite the country. And the president will need to unite the country because that's the only way he can enjoy his power and implement his manifesto or his plan. You cannot enjoy power in a fragmented society or a country where people are going for each other's throats. You cannot implement and enjoy your power unless the country is united. I want to invite the president to look at the figures. That the difference between the president and Raila Odinga was about 250,000 votes from a turnout of about 14 million, which means each of them got about 7 million votes. The difference, 250, would be a big margin if the victor had 2 million and the other one maybe 1.8. But 200,000 from 14 million is a very minor figure. Secondly, there were 8 million Kenyans who did not vote. These are issues of legitimacy that the president must be aware of. And therefore, the president is president in a country that is hurting. The entire population is hurting from harsh economic times. It calls upon the president to be mindful of that and let the citizens see you spend more of your energy and time addressing the challenges that are making life unbearable instead of politicking. Worse, the president should be aware that there are millions of Kenyans who are hurting from the last election. Rightly or wrongly, there are millions of Kenyans who believe this election was stolen. And therefore, it is important to know how you talk and what you talk. A divided country requires more healing than venom. The president, if he hadn't understood that there were many Kenyans who are hurting, who believe he didn't win the election, and even among those who believe he won the election, if the president had not been aware that many Kenyans are hurting from the economy, from the politics of this country, the 3 or so demonstrations should have left no doubt in the president's mind that there are many Kenyans outside there who are hurting. When one individual, he may be the lead opposition figure in the country, When an individual appears in an estate in Nairobi unannounced, impromptu, and tens of thousands of Kenyans stop what they were doing to come and listen to that individual, when tens of thousands of individuals are uninvited, no notice given, appear and are willing to escort the opposition leader, when tens of thousands are ready to face tear gas, that must tell you something, that indeed in the country there are people who are hurting. And therefore, as I advise that we pursue the path we started on Sunday, because I slept for 12 hours like a baby, I must also advise we watch what we say. The President and Raila Odinga must refer to each other respectfully. They must operate with decorum. Our children look up to you, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, for inspiration and leadership. The handshake that everybody seems to be talking about has been cheapened, even by people who should know better. By handshake, we have come to foolishly talk of power sharing. We forgot that if Raila had not foregone his victory in 2007 and fought the way other people do, we would not be having a country today. We have forgotten the fragmented country we had in 2017, 2018. And therefore, we cheapen the handshake. I want to tell the country, I want to invite the President to know that you have to thank Raila Odinga, who unto this country, if a time will come, and unless we take care, that time is going to come sooner than we think. It may be a day, it may be a week, a year, 10 years. But that time will come if we do not take care. If we take too much for granted. Who unto us, when the time comes and we wish Raila was around, as many young men were preparing to spill into the streets of Nairobi, the CBD, on Monday, Raila called off the demos, and the drums of war went silent. Who unto us, when there will be nobody to silence the war drums? And that's why the President must be grateful to Raila Odinga. President Ruto must thank Raila Odinga that those who are hurting and would wish to protest have a person who can call them to order, and they go back to their homes. Let's not take this for granted. I have warned before, if these things continue, and listening to leaders from Nyandarua, I fear we could be inviting these things to continue. If these things continue, they will assume a life of their own. And not an individual, not even Raila Odinga, will manage to control the rioting masses in this country. That is the time we will wish Raila was in charge. That's the time we will wish the situation was different. Because in countries where riotous masses have had no leadership, the consequences have been bad. And for that reason, we must do everything within our power to ensure we do not have a return to what we saw. I was once given a prize. It was a book. It was called Return to the Shadows by Robert Serumaga. I can't even remember the story. I think I had topped in my class sometimes in Form 1. Let's not return to the shadows. Let's watch what we say. Let's not have courage that has no foundation. Let's avoid cheap bravado. Let's know that at the end of the day, this is our country. All of us, each of us. And each one of us must do whatever it takes, whatever is in their power, to ensure we have this country today and tomorrow for our children, and the day after tomorrow for our grandchildren. That responsibility is even greater on Raila Odinga and William Ruto. It cannot be served by the cheap talk I've seen some leaders engaging in.